Hello, welcome to another episode of Cardinal Film Fights. I'm your judge and host, Stuart Elmore, and we have three awesome new fighters with awesome questions for you guys. If you came here for a certain fight, pick in the description below. Lots of options for yes. Well, 5 if there's a speedrun question, but we don't know that yet. Great. So we have 3 awesome new fighters, like I said, and just to get started off, we have Daniel. You do like a short summary of yourself, bio, whatnot, because you've seen the show.
I'm Daniel. I usually work behind the scenes, but I'm actually on screen today. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Awesome. And then we have Max.
Hi, everybody. My name is Max Van Dongen. I'm excited to be here, and I want to give a shout-out to Daisy Ridley. Happy birthday. If by some miracle she is watching this right now.
Happy birthday, Daisy Ridley.
Hit me up, okay?
She watches the show.
Oh.
No, we get fan mail. Yeah, so.
Good.
And then we have Quentin.
All right, my name's Quentin. I am a wandering oracle.
Nice.
No, I'm a philosophy student and political science student. I'm getting ready to graduate. This is really cool. I've watched a lot of videos. Friend Morgan invited me to do this,
Awesome.
and I think I'm going to win.
Wow. Right out of the gate. Confidence. And as always, Vaughn, Chicken Facts.
Hello, I'm checking facts as usual. And
Cool.
Vaughn.
Awesome. And we have Morgan keeping score in time, which I can't see the laptop, but it's fine. I don't need to see the laptop. And with that being said, let's get straight to it, guys, with our first round. Worst TV movie. And we're going to start with Daniel on your 6-second conclusion whenever you are ready.
All right, so I went with ABC's 2011 masterpiece, My Future Boyfriend. In this movie, a man in the future named PAX49731, or Pax as he goes by, discovers a romance
Can you talk closer
novel.
to the mic?
Sorry, he discovers a romance novel. And he goes back in time to meet the author of this romance novel to learn about such things as love, passion, and sex, because those things apparently don't exist in the future. It's just such a strange movie. He wants to learn all this stuff from her, but she doesn't really seem to actually believe him, but she still goes along with all of it. So he just kind of comes off as really creepy and trying to get sex from her, acting like he's a man from the future. The acting is terrible. There's a contrived love story that never really actually pays off. There's nothing redeeming. At worst, it's frustrating. At its best, it's completely forgettable.
Awesome. Really cool. And Max, before you start, can you throw that microphone thing off the table?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sorry about that, folks. All right, whenever you're ready.
Ooh, all right. Okay. This movie is called Cyberbully. It is a classic from ABC Family, and if you guys know ABC Family, they don't really put out good stuff. And
It's called Freeform now, man. Come on.
I don't call this a movie. I call this a product, because this is a product where people sat around at a round table and they said, what do we got? What's the latest moral issue going on today? And they go, what about cyberbullying? And then they just put this out to promote some sort of moral agenda. And it's way over the top. They over-exaggerate everything just to worry parents. And if you don't like this movie, people attack you for it because they think you support cyberbullying, and it's just a gimmick movie.
Okay. Gimmick movie. Gotcha. And Quentin, whenever you're ready.
All right, so Joe Dirt 2 is the most garbage TV movie. All right, so there are no redeeming qualities. A quote from AV Club: "The funniest thing about Joe Dirt 2 is its fanciful notion that the glorified Mama's Family return, like the 2001 Joe Dirt, would require a sequel, and the demand for one would be so great it would inspire now 50-year-old David Spade to surrender what little dignity he has left, to put on a mullet wig and warily subject himself for another gauntlet of fart jokes and testicular injury-based humor." So basically, the whole movie's about Joe Dirt. It makes very little sense. It's some kind of alternative narrative to the first one. It relates to like Forrest Gump, and he's somehow teleported back in time and lands on a leader of a racist bike gang and gets some magical boots. And his knowledge from the past somehow helps him in the future. And there's 3 points that make it bad. It has no plot. The only humor comes from making loose references to the other movie. And there's a man who has an orgasm into a popcorn container.
And I finish it off with the popcorn container. Great. Wow. And I'll start our 5-minute open forum whenever you're ready, guys. You can just talk to, I don't know. So how are like the others better than like your guys's is my question. So
okay, so I think cyberbullying is actually it's actually better than Joe Dirt 2 because it has a moral, like, part to it where people like they're trying to get people not to be cyberbullies. At the end, they come out and they're like, yes,
I would
standing up to cyberbullying, and then everybody's happy, and that's the end. And
Well,
it has a moral part. Joe Dirt is the opposite of morals.
Yeah, at least cyberbully kind of added something positive to the world in a way.
oh,
A message.
wow.
A message.
well, I don't know. Joe Dirt, he is the moral king. I don't know. It's he is. No matter where you come from, life's a garden. Just dig it, and that is what I live by every day. And that message carries through in the second film, which I have seen, and it's just forgettable. I mean, compared to cyberbully, cyberbullying haunts you like in an offensive way, and Joe Dirt 2 is just forgettable. And for My Future Boyfriend, I haven't seen it, but when I read the synopsis, it sounded so ridiculous that I wanted to see it. Like, it just sounded so strange and so funny. Like, I laughed out loud when I read the synopsis.
If you watch it, you won't remember that you watched it when it's done. There's nothing memorable about it.
I don't know, but like, is that bad though? If you just forget it, like, but cyberbully, has lingered with me since I've seen it all those years ago. It's so bad, like, it's just so offensive, and it's way over the top and everything. And it's literally just they could have just tweeted out, cyberbullying's bad, and just read the 3 seconds instead of making you watch an hour and a half of just garbage.
Yeah, I think My Future Boyfriend is definitely better than Joe Dirt in the way that this has gone a weird direction, but I think Joe Dirt is actually worse than My Future Boyfriend because My Future Boyfriend has at least some kind of plot line, a story.
I don't know about that.
It tries to have romance. Joe Dirt just has some. There's literally 8 minutes of fart jokes for Joe Dirt.
The humor in My Future Boyfriend, though, is almost entirely based off of one-liners. Like, that's almost all the dialogue is just a one-liner back and forth. The main character will even say one-liners to herself if there's no one else in the room.
People love one-liners, and I know I do, so I'm sure I love that movie.
But I think My Future Boyfriend has a fundamental understanding of like how humans work. Joe Dirt in the movie, the movie doesn't really know how babies are born. And so there's about a 5 to 10 minute scene where they're just like talking out from a woman about how babies are born, and nobody understands like a fundamental way that children are born. Because that's Joe Dirt. That's how bad it is as a movie.
I don't know, dude. I was laughing all throughout Joe Dirt too. Even as forgettable, there was a moment that made me go,
Yeah, you can at least say that there's something funny. Someone has laughed at something within Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
You will sit stone-faced at this movie.
I don't know. This based on the synopsis, it sounds like something I'd be laughing at all throughout because of just how ridiculous it sounds. While cyberbullying there's nothing. Okay, a bad comedy is not as bad as a bad drama because a bad drama is so dry and it's just miserable to watch. In a bad comedy, at least there are some parts that'll like you'll be so intrigued like, well, they try to be funny, but like maybe you'll get a good out of it. And like you said, I'm sure that there's somebody out there that thinks that's just the best movie ever. But the people that support cyberbully think it's a good movie just solely based on the message, and that's not fair. You shouldn't judge a movie just based on the message. There's so much more that goes into a film that you need to factor into, and other than the message, it's just all garbage.
And about like the message comment, do you guys have any like rebuttals against that? Because like that's a good point, like the fact that it does have a message. But do you guys have anything against like that?
As far as I'm aware, the only message in My Future Boyfriend is that if you act weird, you'll get what you want.
Yeah,
Interesting.
That's a good point.
So Joe Dirt has a like underlying message of just this noble hero who is an idiot and bad things happen to him, but somehow he's able to pull it all together. But I think at the end of the day, the movie fails to do any of those kind of like messages to give a person like hope that this is going to work out for them. The movie has to deal with time travel and magic boots and mullets, and in no way works into reality that's going to like help anybody. So it's just this conjoined series of sad cutscenes that it just makes it so terrible that it's probably the worst TV movie out of all of them.
I'm sitting here laughing just talking about Joe Dirt 2. No one's laughing about cyberbully. I tell you what, no one was laughing. I wasn't laughing when I was watching. I was just, straight faced out like, oh.
It's a serious topic.
It is a serious topic. See, right there, that's the problem. People are saying it's a serious topic. That means the movie's good, right? And it's not. It's just it's a message that people are putting out saying you gotta like it because of the message.
Good.
But if you can get someone to watch
Morally
that,
good.
maybe someone will be convinced by it.
I'm sure there are morals within. Like I said, I'm sure there's the Life's a Garden, dig it, and I'm sure that movie has a moral.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, let's start with Daniel and 3 second conclusions whenever you're ready.
I'm just gonna say everything about this was bad. The dialogue is terrible. No, the humor is entirely based on how Pax doesn't understand modern people or technology, even though there should be historical documents about that in the future. It's not funny. Nothing about it is pleasant. I took nothing away from it.
Great. Okay, Max.
Just from reading the synopsis from My Future Boyfriend, I got a good laugh out of it. And I mean, I haven't even seen the movie yet, and that just sounds hilarious. I want to see it now. Cyberbully haunts you on an offensive level, and it even takes a step further where if you don't like the movie, then you support cyberbullying, that's unfair. And that movie, it affects your life in a very negative way. So, and Joe Dirt 2, it's forgettable. I mean, yeah, there were some moments where I was like, okay. I mean, it was a waste of time, but it wasn't as big of a waste of time as Cyberbully.
And Quentin.
All right, so Joe Dirt has an IMDb rating less than both of the other two movies, right? So this movie is atrocious. I believe on Rotten Tomatoes it has like a 0%. Vaughn, you might want to check that, but it's lower than both of the other ones. At the end of the day, Joe Dirt 2 is a movie that should have never made. It in no way is coherent and fundamentally breaks down. I don't know what that noise was. Fundamentally breaks down like any kind of moral or ethical code that humans live by.
Wow. Love starting off Cardinal Film Fights talking about the worst TV movie. And since not a lot of them are good anyway. Yeah. Vaughn, I'm sure there are some scores to share, but are there any facts to check?
Okay, so Quentin, you were correct. It does have it has a 4.2 on IMDb, which is the lowest out of these three. It has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's out of 8 reviews.
Out of 8 reviews.
And then Cyberbully has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
No way.
Yes, it does.
That is impossible. What?
Yes,
that is impossible. That's like I said. The people
it
spamming
it has a 5.8 on IMDb though.
Okay.
And My Future Boyfriend has a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb.
A lot of.
I don't know who's allowed to read these ratings.
I think the facts are clear.
I mean, with the arguments and then the facts, yeah, I have to give this to Quentin as first place. In terms of second and third, it's a little bit more difficult. Just you guys, shout out a name. Who do you guys think should get second?
Wait.
Oh.
Full disclosure, when you Google Cyberbully, it says in the preview that it has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. You click on it and it says that there's no tomato meter available.
What?
Oh, so this changes things.
Yes. I was about to say, there is no way that is possible.
That's weird. There's there must be a Disney scandal behind that in Rotten Tomatoes that we just found out on Cardinal Film Fights. Go check that out.
I agree.
I think all in all, though, just arguments alone, I have a lot more written about Joe Dirt 2. David Spade, I think last time we just talked about the worst comedic actor, and yeah, David Spade. And, the fart jokes and sad cutscenes. I think fart jokes alone takes it away. I'm sorry, but if you got to succumb to fart jokes, then what are you doing? So I got to give Quentin first place. And then real quick to the crew, just shout out who do you think should win second, whoever wants to go. I can't see half of you.
I'm going to go with My Future Boyfriend.
All right. No one else? No. Okay. Yeah.
Now we have a tie.
Yeah.
I would give it to Max.
Interesting. Okay. Trace, you got opinions? No.
No.
Okay. I think I will side with the crowd on this. I have to give it to Max, just because that was probably, you guys were back to back on that a lot. You had a lot of very good counter arguments. You said at least the plot sounds funny and ridiculous enough that makes you kind of want to go see it. So, and yours, I didn't hear enough of attacks against cyberbullying, more just defending on why yours is the worst. Whereas Max did do both. So with that being said, I'm going to give Max second, Daniel third. But wow, what shitty TV movies, guys.
Joe Dirt 2 is really bad.
I was just thinking
just full disclosure, don't watch it.
Stephen King's It TV movie isn't even superbly good either.
No.
And just I was thinking about that with the new trailer that came out, which is
good.
interesting. All right, so round 2, best movie featuring Sam L. Jackson. We'll start with Max whenever you are ready.
Okay, when I saw this question, it was easy and it's simple. It's Pulp Fiction by far. It's Quentin Tarantino's best film, and it's easily Samuel L. Jackson's best. It has the best quote, the one he's known for the most, "The Path of the Righteous Man." Pulp Fiction has...
Not English, motherfucker?
Well, that's a good second place, yeah. The cast is incredible. It's full of style. It's violent. It's probably one of the best scripts ever. It's the dialogue, either how important it is or not important it is. It's so engaging and involving. And it's memorable, funny, intense. And it's just one of the best movies ever made in general. So it's by far Samuel L. Jackson's best movie.
Great. Awesome. And Quentin, whenever you're ready.
So I chose Django Unchained, and I think it's bar none one of Quentin Tarantino's best movies. So it has some of the most suspenseful action, like questioning of ethics and a raw look at the treatment of slaves. So Django Unchained is set in like 2 years prior to the Civil War. Jimmy Fox plays Django, who's a slave that's been offered his freedom by a German dentist, Dr. Schultz. And so this whole movie is about this kind of this heroic scene where it comes from like where he kind of comes from like turbulent beginnings and then rises to be this hero. So there's these multiple different factors of just like a love story, intense action, and then you also get Samuel L. Jackson, who plays like a really intense and critical character that has like a lot of depths and folds and isn't something that's often portrayed in movies. So I think for this reason that Django Unchained is probably one of the best movies that has Samuel L. Jackson in it.
All right. Second Tarantino film picked. And Daniel.
So I went with Black Snake Moan, solely focusing on Samuel L. Jackson's character in this. I like it because he's not so much of a badass in this movie. He's there's not really all that much action. He's a broken man who is trying to get better and in some little off-kilter ways trying to help another person get better. I just think he has a lot of depth in this one. His wife cheated on him, left him. He's got really nothing left, so he wants to help people at this point.
Okay, great. And let's go to our open forum whenever you guys are ready.
All right.
You go ahead, man.
All right. So I want to go just right at Black Snake Moan. You didn't describe how he basically finds this woman on the road, picks her, takes her home, chains her up to his house, and just holds onto her for like months. And like it's supposed to be like some kind of rehabilitation away from like some moral or ethical qualms she has with like her lifestyle, but it's kind of like really messed up and not the good way messed up. It's kind of like, whoa, you should probably get her treatment and not keep her hidden in your house when she's like ODing or has like brain trauma.
It is messed up.
Not chain her to a radiator.
Right, messed up, but not in a good way.
Not in a good way. Like
I won't defend that was a good decision to make because he's not the soundest of individuals, but it's really hard to defend that kind of thing. But from the perspective of his character, he means well. It's really hard to put that into a proper perspective.
I guess you're right. He means well.
Good. Okay. Black Snake Moan, I wouldn't even put in the top 5. I'd put Jurassic Park or The Avengers before Black Snake Moan. And also, you're right. Django is one of Quentin Tarantino's best, but it's simply not his best. It's Pulp Fiction by far. And John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, they work so well in that movie. And I mean, his role in that movie is one of the most memorable parts of that movie.
I really think that Django Unchained is better, and I think it's also Samuel L. Jackson's role in it is super unique and really powerful. So essentially, he plays a slave who manages other slaves, which is kind of like such a turn against both his race and like his kind, and it's a role that's not often shown. And it's a role that's not often Samuel L. Jackson because he generally plays this strong hero. In this movie, he's like kind of this crippled old man who's like constantly out for the protagonist. And really the whole anxiety and the crux of the movie comes down to Samuel L. Jackson at the end. And I think the whole movie has a lot of anxiety and a lot of growth and different perspectives and just these different narratives that can apply to so many different people. I really like Django Unchained. I think it's actually better than Pulp Fiction in that fashion.
And what do you say to that?
It is a good role. it's not his best role, and it's more of the best movie with Samuel L. Jackson. And Pulp Fiction is by far the best movie with Samuel L. Jackson. And I mean, just
why is it not the best? I should ask.
Django Unchained?
Yeah, why is Django Unchained not the best versus why Pulp Fiction is?
I'll say it. Django Unchained is good, but it's not the best because the script of Pulp Fiction by far alone is so much better. There are so many quotes in that film.
Six, you're saying a lot like Django Unchained is good,
but it's not
It's
because
like-
it's the best movie with Samuel
Okay.
L. Jackson, and Pulp Fiction is because it's got best quotes with Samuel L. Jackson because of how good that script is. It's violent, it's memorable. The scene with John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson in the car when he's got the gun in his hand and he's talking to the guy in the back seat and blows his brains out. I mean, that scene alone is more memorable than anything in Django Unchained.
Here's the other thing about Django Unchained is I like Pulp Fiction. It does a lot of really cool things, but the thing about Django Unchained is just like the story and the narrative is so unique and creative than like any other one that I think it puts it far above like a bunch of other movies, and I think it even beats Pulp Fiction. There are very few, and I don't even know if there are any, like black protagonist Western movies, and that was like a whole new thing. And it was like super cool and original, and took on different variants that Pulp Fiction kind of just addresses like the nuances we have today. But this is like a revitalization of something that isn't something that's inherent in what we talk
Daniel,
about every
you
day.
got to get in there, man.
There is already a
I got nothing
Django.
to
There's
say
already a
much
Django
about that.
series before Django Unchained, so I wouldn't say the movie itself is original because there is more Django movies out there. Django Unchained is like a remake of the character Django, but Pulp Fiction, there's so many memorable scenes throughout it. It's got the best script. I know I said that over and over again, but it's one of the best scripts ever written by Quentin Tarantino.
That final scene where he just blows, that whole final fight scene is
It's
so
cool, but it's not
awesome.
the
And he
best.
blows up the house and rides off into the sunset. Well, it's night, so he rides off. It's so cool, and just like Pulp Fiction like has a climax, but I don't know if it's quite the same as like the ending of that movie.
And personally, I'm not really going to argue that any of those are bad movies. Those are tremendous movies. I mean, Black Snake Moan is decent. I went specifically for his character. I mean, I just really like it. He's not a healthy man, but he's partnered with a not a very healthy woman. Neither of them do very good things in their life, and his character arc is just about him learning to get better so he can help another person, and that person working off of him. She learns to help other people by what she learned from her time with him.
I don't know. I just think that his character as playing his character in like Django is like super unique and the opposite of how Samuel L. Jackson is as a person.
All right. So I want you guys to say why the other movies aren't as good. Not so much focusing on the features of your movie, but what features of the other two movies make them not as good as yours? That's the question I want to point out for conclusion, starting with Max.
Black Snake Moan, not even in the top 5. Jurassic Park, Avengers, way better. Black Snake Moan, I haven't even seen it. I just think it's obvious it's not even in the top 5. And when I checked the reviews for Black Snake Moan on Rotten Tomatoes, it had a 66, so it's more towards the middle.
And then for Django?
Django had 80 something. Pulp Fiction has much higher rating on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Django, yeah.
What
I'm
are the
sorry,
bad
it's-
parts of Django? Tell me now. Tell me now.
Some people
And-
can be offended by that
And
movie.
Quentin, whenever you're ready.
So I think the first thing is just like Black Snake Moan has immediately a really weird and ethical turn to it that like is like really uncomfortable throughout the whole movie where he's like the goal of it is like him trying to make this other person better by like chaining her and like this patriarchal structure that is just like really uncomfortable and not something that I think is like good for the movie. I think Pulp Fiction is like a high quality movie, but I think at the end of the day it talks about things that are like relative.
Relative and shit.
Are we allowed to swear on this? Does
Yeah,
this bleep
yeah.
out?
Yeah, just don't like go overboard. But yeah.
I can't make any
and Daniel,
promises.
whenever you're ready.
So I mean, I think you guys did have some really good points about your movies, and they are good movies. For Django, I don't think he did serve a role, but I don't think he served quite as large of a role as either Black Snake Moan or Pulp Fiction. As far as Pulp Fiction goes, I don't feel like there really was a ton of depth to his character. I mean, he was cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't think there was a lot going on behind the scenes in him for that. So that's what I got.
Okay. Vaughn, any facts to check on that?
Yes. Okay, so Max, you're correct. Black Snake Moan does have a 66%. Django Unchained has an 88%, and Pulp Fiction has a 94%. Are you interested in hearing about awards that Samuel L. Jackson got for any of these?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So for Django, he had 9 nominations and 3 wins. For Pulp Fiction, he had 10 nominations and 5 wins. He did not have any awards for Black Snake Moan.
Okay, this one's a lot tougher, especially towards like the conclusions. You kind of shot yourself in the foot because I was waiting for because you said a lot of like, Django's good, but mine's better. Django's good, but mine's better because, and didn't say like, Django's good, but it's not as good because your movie does this. And I was waiting for those, and I didn't get that. So this makes it tough. I'm not saying you're out of the running on first, but it makes it tough. Crew, I just need like some quick opinions. Like shout out who you guys should get first.
Whichever one is Travolta and Samuel Jackson. I'm blanking on the name.
Pulp Fiction.
Thank you, that one.
You don't even know the name.
What? Blanks on Pulp Fiction?
I've been reading.
Yeah, see, exactly. You know, it's so good. How do you forget it?
I thought Quentin got it with Pulp Fiction.
What?
Me with Pulp Fiction?
All the way around. There weren't enough arguments.
Were you doing Pulp Fiction?
I was doing Pulp Fiction.
Okay, sorry. I thought you had it with Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
My bad.
Thank you. No, I'll take it.
The biggest thing was like the arguments decision was which kind of overtook the other. I'm going to give this to Max in first place simply because the counter argument made to the others, especially Daniel, was really good. And the fact that all you had to do was like listen to the movie that people just know right out of the bat, like Jurassic Park and Avengers. Whether that may have not been made towards Quentin, the fact that you had those arguments readily available was supported your argument as a whole. I do like that, you state the obvious. It's a good movie, and you also list why. And so with that being said, got to give you second. I'm sorry, Daniel. I got to give you third place. It's just, and it was an interesting take, especially when the fact that you went for a better role. But I specifically worded the question, best movie featuring Samuel L. Jackson. And like, I didn't care if it was like a quick cameo. Like if he was in the movie, you can count that. And that was the only thing I was going for. It's an interesting take, and then as soon as you went with that take, and then Quentin pointed out the ethical dilemma of that, I thought, oh, I think I read the room on that, and I think everyone was like, oh, like, so with that, I do have to give it to Max, then Quentin, then Daniel. But good job, guys. That was really good.
Yeah, it's hard
Also, it
arguing
probably
against
wasn't my
Django.
strongest argument for a film.
They're both awesome movies.
It's all good. Let's move on to our third round, best spy movie. We're going to start with Quentin this time, whenever you are ready.
All right, so I think the best spy movie is the 1963 Pink Panther movie. The movie is a wonderful classic, great time for the whole family. The movie viewers will go through a complicated story of espionage and humor. Pink Panther is a top-notch movie script with complicated characters, pristine acting, well-played timing, award-winning soundtrack, and visually appealing environments. So I think it's the best because it has like really strong characters, specifically like strong female characters. And if nothing else, the story is like really unconventional, and many of the hero is essentially kind of this bumbling guy, and everyone has like these complicated characters where things don't necessarily work out, but they have to play by ear and figure out how to come to bring back the Pink Panther. So I think at the end of the day, this is the best spy movie.
Awesome. Great. And let's go to Daniel.
So I went with 1974 as The Conversation. I went with this because I think it's a really grounded, realistic spy movie that really kind of focuses on the intricacies of actually spying on people and conducting surveillance. There's not really any ridiculous action sequences or any kind of weird, romance subplots. It's just pure spying in 1970s technology porn. There's a lot of good characters, a lot of good sequences that really show off just how complex this is, and I really like all the depth that it had.
Complex and depth. Love it. Great. And Max, whenever you're ready.
When you think of spy, just about anybody would say James Bond. He's the most iconic, and when you're talking about the most iconic, we're talking about Casino Royale. It's by far the best in the series. It's the most intense. It's one of the most intense movies I've ever seen, all the way down to the poker scenes, which isn't full of explosions and chase scenes. It's I mean, I had my attention the whole time. I mean, it made something which people may find boring, like watching people play cards, intense and really engaging. And a movie is as good as your villain. And one of the best parts of Casino Royale is Mads Mikkelsen as Le Chiffre. You understand his motivations. He's a villain you can sympathize and you understand. And just it changed the way Bond was from the whole series. You know, it didn't do the Bond series where Austin Powers parodies. It literally took the character that Ian Fleming, who is the novelist that does the James Bond books, and did the character a cold-blooded assassin like he was intended to be.
Sweet. And let's go to our 5-minute open forum whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the conversation. I think like the crux of the movie isn't necessarily a spy-oriented movie. It is about a guy who watches like. It is about a guy who like watches in on like other people and like listens to them. But like the crux of the movie is about his paranoia, and like the crux of the movie is like the intensity around that. It's not really about like either like a Bond figure or any kind of like government figure who's like going around like sneaking around and trying to get information and facts to try to stop a villain or try to do something. It's just kind of this guy who's in this paranoid world and then rips up his whole house and plays the saxophone, and then the movie ends.
That doesn't really come into play until near the end of it. I mean, the entire opening of the film sets up his entire mission across the entire film. He's conducting this whole operation just to get information on these two specific people, and most of the movie is him piecing together information just out of that specific moment in time. If anything, I would say that Pink Panther doesn't really line up with a spy movie. I would say that's more...
Can you talk closer to the mic? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I would say that's more like a comedy mystery more than spying going on there.
I don't know. I think it fits like a definition of espionage. So it's like trying to obtain information that's considered secret or confidential. It has like all these international actors. There's these people trying to spy on other people and get information from other people. I don't know. I think it definitely meets it. I think it's fun for the whole family, and there's a lot of complex characters. I'm gonna go for Casino Royale. I think that it has a lot. It is much more heavy on the action side than it is on like the espionage and like the kind of the I don't know, the spy part of it where you're trying to like sneak around and be like these different characters and get information. It's like the whole first 10 minutes is just this crazy action scene of him climbing this half-built building and like blowing things up, and it doesn't really...
It's the black and white sequences, the first 10 minutes of the movie, which is incredible, where you learn that he is a cold-blooded assassin. Because when he kills that guy, you see a picture of his family, which shows that this is not... And, I mean, just because he's a spy doesn't mean there has to be explosions. It's got to be a guy undercover, and he's under the code name James Bond. And, I mean, yeah, there's some action in it, but, I mean, most of the movie takes place in the casino where he's playing the card games. And it's him being a spy. He's trying to take away the money for Le Chiffre, the bad guy, and that is, I mean,
well, I also think that I think you know who the bad guy is. Like, you know who's the good guy and you know who's the bad guy. Like, I don't think there's a complicated story there, because you see James Bond in the casino. He's wearing like an all white suit and he wins, and you see the bad guy and has like a scar on his face and wearing all black. Like, you know who's good and who's bad. There's no kind of like confusion about what's going on or a complicated story about figuring out what's going on.
Well, I wouldn't say just because you know who the good guy and the bad guy is doesn't mean the movie, it takes away from, you got to know who the good guy is. You got to know the protagonist.
Well, I don't think you have to. I think that's part of the fun of a spy movie is not knowing who's what until there's a twist at the end. And that's what happens in the Pink Panther. There's an interesting twist at the end.
Casino Royale dumped all cliches the Bond movies had. The Bond movies, they all started out with the gun barrel scene where he shoots and the blood drips down. It started with the black and white opening and then led into the gun barrel scene. And when he's asking about his martini, he says, "Do I look like I give a damn?" I mean, it just, instead of shaken not stirred, I mean, it just changed everything, and that's what made it refreshing instead of
less Bond.
And what do you have to say about like the Pink Panther, or say like Daniel's movie?
I haven't seen the conversation, but from the negative reviews I've read, it said it was boring and it doesn't hold up. And the IMDb rating for Casino Royale is higher. And for the Pink Panther, the negative reviews I've read is that it's slow and it drags. And, the Pink Panther, that's responsible for the Steve Martin Pink Panther movies we got later on. So, that has got to take away from that movie. And the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes score for Casino Royale is higher than the Pink Panther.
Yeah, but I think those, I don't think those necessarily reflect how good it is as a spy movie. That might be like entertainment factor or like a factor of like how many people have watched it. I don't think it necessarily reflects its quality or essence of being a spy movie. Because I really think that, especially when you're talking about Casino Royale, it pulls away from the actual espionage part of it and the part of being a spy and like this idea of like going undercover. It's just this constant like action intense scene where it gets away from being I don't even know, like a character who has like this nuanced understanding or any kind of depth. He's this flacked character that's an assassin that blows things up, and you know who the good guy is, you know who the bad guy is, and at the end of the day, the good guy's gonna like blow it up and win.
Well, he's under the code name James Bond the whole time, so I mean, obviously he's a spy. I mean, the good guy. I don't understand the argument of the good guy and bad guy. I mean, obviously
It's just like
you got to know.
it's a flat character.
Well, every movie has a good guy and a bad guy. I mean, then every movie would be flat in that sense.
Well, but not necessarily. Like it's a more complicated story with Pink Panther.
Wow. Crazy. Let's go with Quentin on conclusions whenever you're ready.
All right. So I think at the end of the day, based on the other two, like I think the conversation, the crux of it isn't necessarily the espionage or the spy part of it, but it's like the anxiety and the paranoia of this guy who has information as part of the government. I think Casino Royale, it definitely has like aspects of spy movies, but I don't think it makes it the best spy movie. I definitely think it lays heavy on action and not necessarily on like the nuanced parts of being James Bond or even like espionage itself. I think the Pink Panther does all of that. It has strong characters, strong female characters, and I think it definitely has a complicated and convoluted storyline.
Okay. And Daniel.
So as for those, I mean, James Bond is very heavy on action. Pink Panther, like I said, I would still put that more in the mystery category. I mean, the conversation is more tense. Like you said, it was slow, and I can kind of get that, but it's tense. It's paranoid. A lot of people will say the Blair Witch was boring just because of how slow that was, but it's a slow build. It builds up to the big twist at the end where everything comes clashing together.
All right. And Max.
This is not a silly James Bond film. It is the best James Bond film. It's by far the best spy film. He's a spy the whole time. If he wasn't, then they'd go, oh, there's the guy right there. Let's kill him. It changes all the cliches of the whole Bond series, and it's got some of the most intense, gripping action. And yes, there are explosions, but the whole majority of the film is basically in the casino where he's undercover trying to win back the money, win money away from Le Chiffre, who is, a movie is as good as your villain. And Mads Mikkelsen is as Le Chiffre is one of the best parts.
Whew. Wow. That's tough. Any facts to check on that, Ron?
Yeah, Max, you were correct. I'm just going to give out the ratings. Pink Panther has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. Casino Royale has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and an 8 out of 10 on IMDb. And The Conversation has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb.
All right. This one's tough for me. Because the only things... All three are kind of in the running. But you all had fantastic points against each other, but also points to support. I mean, Quentin, you had the fact that yours is a good spy movie with the visual appealing and then the good actors. But Casino Royale is like one of the best. Like, it changed the whole character of James Bond. I think like the code name thing, I think that's like a theory. People are thinking that James. I don't think that's like part of the movie. I think in the movie Casino Royale, his actual name is James Bond. I think because I think that's a theory, right, guys, right? Pretty sure that's just a theory.
He's never been. He always has like the alias, but he's always been James Bond throughout them.
Yeah, and it's hinted that.
It's a pretty solid theory to explain the time difference.
Yeah, because I know. Factually speaking, no one's made claim that like the Pierce Brosnan isn't connected to the Daniel Craig James Bond,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a theory that if it is, it could be done through that way. So I don't think that's like an actual factual point, but that was something I heard a lot from your arguments that I personally knew I thought was just kind of a theory. I'm gonna need some crew helps on this, so just first place, give me a name, whoever.
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale. Stewart is my opinion valued as well.
Yes,
Oh, cool.
of course.
A little hot. Then yeah, I gotta go Casino Royale.
Also Kingsman.
That was my second.
Except the third act.
Yeah, I
Some of them are
agree.
like-
That one a little.
The
Yeah.
third act of that movie kind of fell flat.
It blew my mind.
I
Stuff up pretty well.
Nah, boo.
Say what? Sorry.
Kingsman.
Fat Jill.
I've got plenty
All
of
right,
those.
all right.
I gotta
Go back to
say
your day job.
it's very tough, but I think Yeah.
Just real quick, who do you think wins?
On this. I
Ooh.
think you made,
Okay.
Granted, it's really between I think you and Casino Royale. I think the conversation was all right, but I think it's very good, but
Casino Royale, Colin.
Yeah. I think we go.
Yeah.
Isaac, and Bryson say Spy Kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Watch
We
that
done
the
with that
other
one.
day.
We done messed
It's
up.
got it in the
Okay,
title.
let's not go down. Let's not go down. Yeah.
We done messed up.
All right, let's not go down that road. I think all in all, taking away the whole like Alias point, I thought with the black white sequence intro, the Mads Mikkelsen villain, the change of the character, the fact that just because that there is a definite hero villain, that doesn't make it a bad movie. With all those points, I got to give it to Max first place, with Quentin second and Daniel third. So, but that was really hard.
Yeah, I'm
'cause
sure they're all good.
They were all
They all have over 90%
really good
on Rotten
movies.
Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So good choice on that, guys. Let's go to round 4, best fight sequence, and we're gonna start with Daniel. Whenever you're ready.
So I went with 2007's Eastern Promises, wherein Viggo Mortensen is an undercover Russian agent working to take down the boss of a mafia group. The context isn't super important. He's involved in a poorly planned hit job. He's just a driver. It goes wrong. They try to retaliate. But they track him down in a bathhouse, and he's just completely naked while these two big burly Chechen hitmen come after him with curved blades and just kick the hell out of him. But he surprisingly does a good job holding his own despite of how vulnerable he is in this situation. He's naked. He's getting thrown around the room, hanging dong the whole time. He holds his own, but you're afraid that he might not actually make it out of this situation just because of how outnumbered he is. The scene is brutal, and you're afraid for him during the whole thing.
All right, brutal and nude. Great.
Brutal and nude.
Awesome. And Max.
The fight sequence between Adonis Creed and Pretty Ricky Conlon in Creed is my favorite fight scene of all time, and I truly do believe it is the best fight scene. It's not only incredibly well choreographed, the filming and camera work and dedication from Michael B. Jordan, it's amazing, but the emotion also, the emotional aspect to it, makes it so much better when we got Rocky there who's feeling guilty for Apollo Creed's death, and he's got his son up there fighting, so he's got that aspect to the fight. Pretty Ricky Conlon, it's his last fight, so he wants to finish out top with that perfect record, and Creed wants to live up to his father's glory in his own way. And I mean, the camera work from Ryan Coogler is inspiring, and the score for the film, the rendition by Ludwig Göransson, I can't pronounce his last name, also just makes this fight so energetic. Michael B. Jordan actually got knocked out twice, so it's really authentic, that fight scene. It technically was a real fight scene then, because he got knocked out twice. He got up and did it again for the movie.
Wow, good intro. All right, and Quentin.
All right, so Enter the Dragon is one of the last movies made by Bruce Lee before he died. This movie is like a Hong Kong American martial arts film featuring many of the great martial artists. I think it's the best fight sequence is where Lee, who's Bruce Lee, must fight his way out of this armed underground drug ring. And he fights insurmountable odds. Everybody has these armed guards after several uncut and very long scenes of him using nunchucks and his fists and this wooden rod. He escapes, or he's able to free some of the prisoners, and the whole thing is comprised of very few cuts. It completely relies on the skill of Bruce Lee. Even at the end, Jackie Chan's there, and they fight with each other, and Bruce Lee takes him and breaks his neck or whatever. So it's super intense, and so there's no other scenes like this where it's super long and cut and has such skills. And it's also really cool because there's an Asian protagonist, which isn't a thing that we have as much currently in Hollywood.
All right, let's open up to our open forum, guys. Whenever you're ready.
All right, so you said that the cutscene from Creed, he got hit or knocked down or whatever. Bruce Lee died after this movie. he got an injury from it, and it led to, I forget what disease he got, and then he died. So
Was it because of the fight?
I think he cut his hand on glass at some fight scene. But the whole movie has a lot of fight scenes.
See, when I was watching that fight scene, it was so cheesy and over the top, and like when he goes,
generation
he'll hit
of
somebody and then
martial
it'll go, whoa, and then the camera will just zoom in on him, and I was just laughing. I was just like, ah, man,
It's very cheesy.
It's not as intense.
The main thing that I took away from that is there's no tension in those scenes. It's fun, it's exciting to watch, but that's about all it is. You never think that he's vulnerable at any point. Like he's just kicking ass left and
Yeah,
right.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
How more? He's very vulnerable.
He's shirtless and kicking ass.
If we want to talk about vulnerability, though, I mean, like,
Yeah,
this
but
guy's
all these
nude.
naked, like whatever. Like clothes be clothes. He's not
Slashed
that
across his
naked.
back.
And you also said he's outnumbered. It's like 2-1 is not really all that outnumbered. Like Bruce Lee had
Unarmed?
like 50 drug dealers in a cave that he
Took
was
him out
fighting.
easily, though.
That is
But when you're
intense.
fighting a superhuman being,
Bruce,
that's
he's
not being
superhuman.
unarmed.
He's just diligent and he
Diligent.
Bruce Lee was handling them no problem. I mean, you had Creed the underdog in this. You know, there's a scene that just makes me choke up every time where he goes.
But we
you
all know he's gonna
I just
win
don't want to
already,
prove.
'cause it's
No,
just
he
Rocky
didn't win
II.
though. He did
He
not
didn't
win.
win in the
He
fight,
did not
right?
win in that fight because one of the best parts in the scene is when he goes, where he's talking to Pretty Ricky Collins, he's trying to get him like get in his head, where he goes, "Huh, you're a champ, show me," and then he. Pretty Ricky Collins hits him twice, and he ducks down and hits him right in the face. And that scene alone is more intense and awesome than anything I watched in those two. And besides the emotional aspect to it, which is just adds on to it, the camera work, the 360 shots, the one shots by Ryan Coogler,
Yeah, but
so good. And the score,
There's a
I
series of, like,
mean,
cuts
I
from
stood
a
up.
bunch
I'm
of
not gonna lie,
directions.
I'm not embarrassed. I stood up and I cheered at the end of that film. I wanted to run 10 miles. It was so like,
Into the
that was
Dragon
so
is a
awesome.
series of cutscenes, so it requires so much more coordination than like a series of cutting back and forth. Like that's cool, but like this is one scene where a bunch of people are coming at it, and it has to have like really high tech coordination to be able to prove.
But I
this
feel like
and
a
show
fight
it
scene,
happen.
should be intense, and Bruce Lee was kicking ass the whole
intense.
time, and like you said, you
He
thought
broke
Creed won,
Jackie
but he
Chan's
didn't in the
neck.
end.
Just because you have more going on in a scene doesn't make that actually better, though. It makes it more interesting for your eyes, but that doesn't mean it's a better scene.
Yeah, I agree. And Creed, he had way more at stake than Bruce Lee. I mean, he easily just took those out, and it was like
was
stuff
gonna
like,
die
about
in a
Eastern
drug cave.
I didn't really think so. I mean, it seemed like he had no problem about
But at
Eastern
the end,
Promises.
at the end, he get, like if he follows, he fights through this whole cutscene, and like at the very end, he does get captured outside when he's like finished with this fight scene. So like
did he win though?
the fight scene?
Did he? Yeah. Okay. But see, like, I never really thought Bruce Lee would have lost in the end. I mean, but Creed did. And about Eastern Promises, when I was watching that fight scene, I was like, he's naked. And Creed, I was watching the whole time. I was so into it. I felt like I was literally in the crowd watching it. It was so well done. The camera work is genuinely inspiring, and the fight and the choreography. I mean, you had Pretty Ricky Conlon. The actor is a real fighter, so he really had the choreography down.
Bruce Lee's
I'm sure it
but
was.
he died in this scene.
I'm sure he was a good fighter, and it showed because he was just kicking ass, and he had there was no intensity because we knew he was going to get through it. But Creed, we really weren't sure if he was going to win, and he didn't end up winning.
I like to hear more about like Daniel's pick, and you can speak for it too, but just like that's getting kind of left in the dust a little bit.
I mean, I just think it's so visceral. You're afraid for this man. Like, I would say that your scene is good, but it requires about 90 minutes of context to get up to that. At least
Why
for
is he
our
naked?
two scenes. Why is he
I don't know
naked?
the context of
You
that.
He's
don't
in a
need to know that.
bathhouse.
Oh, I would
He's
like
in a
to know.
bathhouse. He's
That's a good
getting a
point.
sauna.
He's getting steamed up a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know why
good.
they joined in and just started beating him up in a bathhouse. That's for sure.
I mean, yours is
They're
very.
hardcore gangsters.
I mean, yeah, but context, sure, but the fight sequence was not as good as it was in Creed, and yours was not as good.
I like that Quentin supporting you, man.
I mean, yours is.
I think his is better than. I think it's better than Creed because I think Creed is just like I think it's just like. I think it's simply just like a boxing match where you know how it's going to turn out. I think you have no idea what's
you
about
thought
to happen.
you thought
and
he
he's gonna
won
die.
though, so you don't
Right,
really
I
know
mean,
how
this,
it turned out.
this guy's already been slashed. He's crawling for his life across a man he already thinks is dead, and then he just starts choking out, and then manages to pick up a curved blade and shove that right in the other guy's eye.
Bruce Lee
It's
gets a barrel
visceral.
broken
Yours
on
was
him.
more intense than his was, and I think yours was definitely second. Mine, on top of an intense fight scene, you have the emotional aspect to it, which is also just as good as the incredible punching
but
and
at
fighting.
the end of like the convoluted scene and having like all these intricate parts coming into like one coherent scene makes like Enter the Dragon one of the best fight scenes, if not the best.
Wow. Crazy. I think, did we start with you on introductions?
Yeah.
Let's start with you on conclusions whenever you're ready.
So, like they supported my argument, you don't know how this scene is going to go. You don't know if he's going to survive. He gets this shit kicked out of him, and he really does hold his own. He's vulnerable. He's afraid. With Enter the Dragon, you know how it's going to go. Bruce Lee is going to win. He's going to defeat everybody in there. Creed, very good scene, but you do need to have all of that backing it up for it to mean a whole lot more than just the fight itself.
All right. And Max.
Say if you don't know the emotional aspect of the film, sure, that's another thing that adds if you know the story, but on top of the emotional aspect, it's so well filmed. The choreography is incredible. It's powerful, emotional. The choreography is incredible. The camera work by Ryan Coogler is so inspiring. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of times I've watched this fight scene over and over and over again because it's just so well done. The Michael B. Jordan got really knocked out. They had real HBO commentators for the fight, so it's really authentic. And I dare say the final fight in Creed is a knockout. And I know you'll like that joke, right?
What? Sorry. And Quentin.
So I think Enter the Dragon is just like a really great scene that requires such intricate detail and like such experience compared to like the other ones, which are a series of like cut and flash scenes. These are one scene that requires all of these different actors coming in. I think like there isn't necessarily the vulnerability you're showing. Like I think the vulnerability comes with like the other I think it comes with like Bruce Lee, who's like in this drug cave, who's coming to fight out. And I think with Creed, it's just like what's gonna happen, and it's just like Rocky 2. Like I don't think it's that much different or new.
Wow. All right. Vaughn, any facts to check on that?
Okay, so right now I'm like very deep in Bruce Lee's Wikipedia page reading about his death just because I was curious about that fact.
It wasn't a hand injury.
It was something to do with his brain and then a medication that he took for it. And yeah, it doesn't look like it had much to do with Enter the Dragon.
This is the same film where he fights Chuck Norris, is it?
No.
Okay.
He cuts his hand, and then he gets like some kind of disease from that.
But any other things to check on that?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Is that really all that happened? I thought he had like some injury in the fight. He got an infection.
The
glass. It was an allergic reaction to. He had like headaches, and he was taking a.
Yeah, his brain swelled, and then he took some meds for it, and the meds.
It's like one led to the next.
Well, it was the allergic reaction that they believe did it.
Yeah. So anyway, going to my ruling, Daniel, I think that was your best fight, and honestly, I'm going to get you first place for that because you told me gave me all the details of why just the vulnerability builds up the tension, and you really don't know how this guy's going to win, and that was the argument that was really these two fought over. And I love the comment you made where it's well, just like they're arguing, you really don't know how my guy's going to win. I love the arguments just because there's more going on doesn't make it better, which was kind of to both of theirs actually that I enjoyed. So with that being the case, I got to give Daniel first place, and Max, I love that fight scene so much. I mean, I'm going to give you second just because you listed camera work, emotional aspect, all the back history to it, the score, Ryan Coogler's directing, Michael Jordan's, and how the energetic and the choreography. You listed all those things right out of the bat. And with that all being said, and Quentin, I just didn't get enough. I got it was it's the best one. It's Bruce Lee, and he kicks ass. It's that was a lot things that I got from that. And all in all, I got to give Max second, Quentin third. And so with that being the case, I think that puts us at a tiebreaker for second place between Daniel and Quentin. I almost called you Quentin. Sorry, Daniel and Quentin. So let's real quick go to our speed round question. Now a quick overview on the rules. Sorry, noise. This is going to be, I'm going to shout out a 2-option question, which is better, this or this. And then you're going to, whoever answers the first one, first, gets dibs. So if I say, what's better, Captain America or Iron Man? And the first one person shouts out Iron Man, gets dibs, and the second person must argue Captain America. Does that make sense? Right? Okay, good. And then whoever gets dibs first will go first, and they'll get 30 seconds to shout out all their arguments. Then when they're done, the second person gets 30 seconds, and then it goes back to the first person with 15-second rebuttal, and then back to the second person. Everyone clear on the rules? Great. So, which is better? Which Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield?
Tobey Maguire.
I heard him by a hair. So Daniel's going to get Tobey Maguire, and Quentin's going to get Andrew Garfield. 30 seconds whenever you're ready, Daniel.
All right, so this was a hot one. I'm going to argue Tobey Maguire because, namely for Spider-Man 2, there's a lot of depth in that one. Spider-Man 2, I would say, is probably one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. It's got great villains. I don't know, Tobey Maguire is just really good. I wasn't prepared for this one.
Trade. I'll take Tobey.
You still got 10 seconds. No.
I got nothing. I'm sorry.
All right. Best superhero
That's not
movie.
good.
Tobey Maguire's good. That's what I got.
What's the other guy's name?
Andrew Garfield.
It's great. I haven't seen the other one. It
We're not-
looks stupid.
we're not gonna-
There's only Tobey Maguire's the only Superman that matters, or Spider-Man.
Holy cow.
You know what I mean?
Double for that hole.
You know what I mean? He's the only one that
So-
matters. The rest of them don't matter.
Was that your 30 seconds?
No, I haven't started yet. What's the
All
other guy's name again?
Andrew Garfield.
Garfield.
Write that down. He has 2 movies.
Just keep digging, man. Eventually they'll hit rock bottom if you aren't there already.
Build the ladder.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, so first off, I think Andrew Garfield is by far hotter than Tobey Maguire, and that is foremost the most important part of Spider-Man. Second, it's a newer movie. It's more nuanced. It goes into more complicated scenes that are related to Spider-Man's life. I think the other part of Andrew Garfield is he just has a very deep and complicated character with interesting love dynamic.
All right, so I got deep and complicated. Hotter is a more important aspect.
I know that one is
Gotcha.
definitely true. Can you fact check that for me?
Complex. All right, Daniel, you have 15 seconds to rebuttal.
Okay,
Whenever you are ready.
So your argument is that it's better because it's new and also he's hot, which
Yeah.
I don't think Peter Parker's attractiveness is really a cornerstone of his character. He's a nerd. Tobey Maguire was really good at representing that.
All right. Quentin, whatever you got. 15 seconds.
All right, so hotness is very important for people who are watching the movie. It doesn't necessarily relate to like his character, but if we're talking about who's the best and who's the better Spider-Man character, hotness is invaluable to the viewer. Thank you.
Crew,
But neither one of them are very attractive people.
That's not true.
Andrew Garfield.
At least I got one thing right.
all right.
Toby's not bad.
Well,
Tobey Maguire looks creepy now. He's super awkward.
I'm sorry, because I have to go with Daniel on this one. Because Tobey Maguire, or Peter Parker is a nerd. I think when you go to the aspects that's true to the source, he is a nerd. So, I mean, I'm going to give it to Daniel. And personally speaking, like Andrew Garfield just angered the shit out of me. It's like he wouldn't get picked on. There's no way. That dude would totally sit at the cool table all the time.
Yeah, it was a bad.
He would be the most popular kid at school. He's also smart and he's got the looks for it. Are you kidding me? So you could have said Spider-Man 3. That would have been. You could have said Spider-Man 3, and that would have been a huge downer on Tobey Maguire, but you
Forgot
didn't.
That was a movie.
it's okay. I didn't
So
have a good argument
I have
either.
to give this second place goes to Daniel, with Max obviously winning first place. So congratulations on that. Congratulations, Quentin, on third. You guys all did a great job. Awesome. Okay. So congrats to Max on winning, and congrats Daniel second, and then Quentin third. Thanks to the crew. Thanks to Vaughn for fact checking. Thanks Morgan for keeping score in time. Thanks to the guys in the back running audio, and to all you video guys. And if you got any suggestions for debates, leave a comment, or leave us a comment or tell us on social media at Card Film Fights. And remember to subscribe if you like today's fight. And again, if you like this fight specifically, give us a like and share us on social media. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you again to everyone here. Bye-bye.